My sister told everyone I was gay to embarrass me so. I sent screenshots of her cheating to her husband and watched her life collapse. Publicly, I'm a 30-year-old guy, and I thought I had finally found someone who saw me for who I really was. Not just tolerated me, not just dealt with, me saw me. Her name was Melanie. She was 28, worked in HR, and had this kind of disarming laugh that made people stop what they were doing just to listen. We met at a mutual friend's engagement party, one of those stuffy, overpriced events where no one actually dances. I was at the bar ordering a ginger ale because I had work early the next morning, and she was standing next to me grumbling about the lack of guacamole on the appetizer table. We hit it off instantly. She was funny, sarcastic in a way that felt safe, and she didn't play those games so many people our age still clung to. After a few months of dating, she looked me straight in the eye one night and said, "I don't want drama. I don't want lies. I've had enough of both." I believed her. God, I wanted to believe her. We moved in together after a year. I proposed 6 months later during a weekend trip to Asheville cabin in the woods. String lights on the porch, quiet music playing from a speaker I'd hidden in my jacket. She cried, said yes, and whispered, "You're the safest place I've ever known." That moment, I let my guard all the way down. I thought, this is it. This is my person. Our wedding was planned for the fall. Just 70 guests. Backyard ceremony, her favorite flowers ranunculus everywhere. She wanted intimacy. I loved that. But in the middle of all the excitement, I kept getting this static in my chest, like I couldn't hear something important just beneath the surface. I told myself it was nerves. I was wrong. Melanie always told me her family was a mess. That was the word she used. Her mom was overbearing, her dad was emotionally distant, and her siblings, according to her, were manipulative and obsessed with appearances. Early in our relationship, she warned me, I keep them at arm's length for a reason. They'll smile to your face and gut you behind your back. I didn't press. I figured we all had our baggage. Still, when the engagement went public, her mom was the first to call. Gushy, overly excited, borderline fake. She asked me, "What took you so long?" and laughed like we'd known each other for years. Her dad sent us an actual email congratulating us. He didn't even sign it with his name, just Best Dad. The first time I met them was at a brunch. Melanie reluctantly agreed to host. She spent the entire morning anxious, slamming drawers and muttering, "This is going to suck." But when they arrived, she flipped a switch, smiling, complimenting her mom's new highlights. Her brother, Caleb, made some offhand joke about her being good at pretending. Everyone laughed too hard, except me. Her sister, Amelia, was the only one who seemed real, quiet, observant. She didn't say much during the meal, just watched. And as I was pouring more coffee in the kitchen, she brushed past me and said under her breath, "You seem nice. Don't let her twist you." It hit me like a glass shattering on tile. I tried to shake it off, to blame it on some weird sibling rivalry. Melanie swore her sister was jealous and bitter. But something about the way Amelia looked at me alike, she knew something. I didn't stay with me. Long after the guests left and the dishes were done, that one sentence kept echoing in my head. "Don't let her twist you." I didn't know what she meant. Not yet. Planning a wedding is supposed to be exciting, right? Picking out cake flavors, arguing over seating charts, laughing at your own indecisiveness. But for me, it was like slowly being erased from my own life. At first, I tried to be involved. I suggested a band I liked. She said, "Too cheesy." I mentioned a rustic venue in the mountains. Too far. Every idea I brought to the table was shot down with a tone that felt more like a parent correcting a child than a partner planning a wedding. Eventually, I stopped suggesting things, not because I didn't care, because it didn't matter. She handled everything: invitations, flower arrangements, playlists, table settings, even my groomsmen's suits. I became a passenger in a vehicle that had my name on it, but no steering wheel in my hands. One night, as we were going over the final RSVP list, I pointed out she hadn't included my old friend Alex Semwan, who practically carried me through college. She didn't even look up, just said, "I didn't think you were still close." That was it. No discussion. Just a decision made without me. I half joked, should I even bother showing up? She laughed. "You just need to smile and say, 'I do.' Leave the rest to me." That stung more than it should have. I remember staring at her across the living room. Watching her scroll through Pinterest boards and color palettes, she looked beautiful in that moment, completely in control. But all I felt was a slow, suffocating panic that I couldn't explain. It's a strange kind of loneliness, being next to someone you love and realizing they've built an entire world without needing your voice in it. I told myself this was normal, that I was but deep down, I could feel that the silence wasn't peace. It was dismissal, and I was starting to drown in it. It started small. A text she'd angle away from me. A quick swipe up when I walked past her phone. A sudden change in the password I wasn't told about. I didn't want to be that guy, the paranoid one, the insecure fiancé digging through messages and checking timestamps, but it was the way she changed. Melanie used to light up when she saw me, used to reach out to touch my hand just because. Lately, she'd sit across from me at dinner, scrolling endlessly. Her replies turned into s. Her smile felt practiced. One night, I got up to pee at around 2 a.m. and caught the soft glow of her phone screen under the blanket. She didn't notice me. She was laughing at something someone sent. When I asked who it was, she jumped like I'd slapped her. "It's just my cousin," she said too quickly. "Go back to sleep." I didn't push. But the air between us that night was ice. Another time, I overheard her in the kitchen while she thought I was out walking the dog. Her voice was low, playful. "Don't worry, he has no idea." Then laughter. That soft, syrupy kind I used to think was meant for me. When she saw me standing in the hallway, she froze, said it was her friend Rachel. "Wedding drama," she claimed. I nodded like I believed her, but my stomach twisted into a knot I couldn't untangle. Every sign was there, flashing like neon, but I kept dimming them in my head. She had told me over and over she hated lies, hated drama, so I held on to that. I clung to the version of her I proposed to, even as the walls around that version started to crack, and something darker began leaking through the seams. It was a Thursday night when everything shattered. I was halfway through folding laundry when I got a message from Zach Maloney's best friend's boyfriend. We weren't close, just enough to nod at each other at parties. His text just said, "You deserve to know." And then came the video. It was shaky, obviously recorded on a phone in a dim Vegas hotel room. The music was pounding. The lighting was red and dizzying, but there she was, Milena sitting on some guy's lap, her arms around his neck, laughing into his ear like it was the most natural thing in the world. Then she kissed him, not a drunk peck, a slow, intentional kiss. My hands went numb. I couldn't feel the phone anymore. I had to sit down. Before I could even process it, Zach sent 2 more clips. One of her grinding on a different guy in the same room. The second, I paused it halfway through. I didn't need to see more. I sat in that silence, surrounded by piles of our folded clothes, her dresses, my socks, the t-shirts we wore when we painted the apartment. I think I sat there for over an hour, maybe longer. I wanted to scream, break something, but all I could do was stare at the wall like my soul had been yanked out of my chest. It wasn't the cheating, it was the certainty. The way she looked so comfortable doing it, the way none of her friends stopped her, the way no part of her seemed to feel guilt or shame. I had given her all of me, and she gave herself to strangers, like I was just a pause in her story. That was the night I stopped being confused, and started thinking about what came next. The next morning, I called Zach. My voice barely worked. I didn't even say hello, just. "Why now?" He hesitated. Then he said, because she laughed about it, "Man, the whole thing, like it was some joke." And I couldn't sit on that anymore. He told me it wasn't just a drunken mistake. Melanie had planned her bachelorette like it was a free pass. Told her friends, "This is my last chance to be bad before being boring forever." She bragged about having a 3-course night. That wasn't a metaphor. My heart didn't break again, because now I knew this wasn't about alcohol or peer pressure or a one-time lapse in judgment. This was who she was when no one was watching. Or when she thought I wasn't watching, Zach told me more. That Melanie had asked her friends to keep it quiet. That some of them were uncomfortable, but went along with it because it's not our place. Even Rachel, her maid of honor, who had cried when I proposed, knew. I asked Zach why he didn't tell me sooner. He said, "Because I thought it wasn't my business. But seeing how you treat her, how much you love her, it didn't sit right anymore." When the call ended, I sat there staring at the ring box on my nightstand. I had planned to give it back to her the night before the wedding, just as a symbolic moment. Now, I wanted to melt it down and scatter the ashes. But instead, I felt something else rise up in me. Not grief. Not sadness. Strategy. I wouldn't confront her. Not yet. If she could plan a betrayal, I could plan an exit. And when I left, she would feel every ounce of the weight I'd carried in silence. I started by making a list. Not of people, but of vendors, venue, caterer, florist, photographer, DJ. Every name, every number. I called each one over the course of a week, using the excuse that I was handling logistics to give my bride a break. They all loved that thought I was some sweet, involved groom. I played the role perfectly. But what I was really doing, dismantling everything. Quietly, carefully, piece by piece. I canceled the DJ, first said we were switching to a live band. Then I told the florist we were moving the date. I gave the photographer a fake new address and postponed our final walkthrough with the venue. Every change I made without telling Melanie was a small act of liberation. At home, I was all smiles. I kissed her goodnight. I asked her if she wanted Thai or sushi. I even offered to help her write her vows. She didn't notice a thing. I forwarded the incriminating videos to my backup email and deleted the originals. I backed up text threads, screenshotted vendor confirmations, made a burner phone, booked a hotel an hour out of town under a fake name. The final step, a new bank account, one she didn't know about. I rerouted my direct deposit and left just enough in our shared account to keep up the illusion. I wasn't just leaving her, I was making sure she would have nothing left to spin. No room to twist the narrative. No wedding, no party, no groom to blame. This wasn't going to be a messy breakup. It was going to be a ghosting of biblical proportions. And when the curtain finally fell, she would realize I had seen everything and chose silence as my revenge. The rehearsal dinner was at her parents' house, a catered affair with white wine, hors d'oeuvres, and way too much forced laughter. Melanie wore this soft blue dress that made her look like the kind of woman I used to dream about marrying. Too bad I couldn't even look at her without seeing those videos playing in my head like a broken film reel. Her dad pulled me aside early in the evening, told me how proud he was, said I brought out a side of Melanie no one else ever could. I smiled politely. All I could think was, you have no idea who your daughter really is. The whole night was a performance. Speeches, toasts, her best friend crying over how inspirational our love story was, Melanie beaming like she had the world in her hands, so I let her keep the spotlight. Until I took it from her midway through dinner, I stood up and tapped my glass. The classic wedding move. Everyone quieted down, expecting a cute story or a heartfelt thank you. I said, before we move forward with tomorrow, there's something I need to share. I pulled out my phone, connected it to the living room TV. No one moved. The video started. Melanie Vegas, the first guy. A few gasps. A fork dropped. Her mother covered her mouth. Then the second video. Melanie screamed, "Turn IT off." But I didn't. I let it play. Every last second dot. When it ended, I looked at this woman I had loved with every ounce of me and I said, "You made your choice. This is mine." I turned and walked out. Left the wine, the tears, the lies, and the silence behind. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel small. I felt free. I didn't go back to the apartment. I didn't check my phone. I didn't need to. By the time I reached the hotel, I'd booked under the name Michael Baird. Melanie had called 14 times, left 8 voicemails, texted so many times that my screen froze when I tried to scroll. What the hell was that? Can we talk? This isn't what you think, please. Please just call me. Then came the angry ones. You're humiliating me. You just destroyed everything. You're a coward. I didn't answer a single one. I sat on the edge of the hotel bed, still wearing my suit jacket, and watched the sun creep over the edge of the parking lot. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just breathed. I thought about all the moments I'd tried to rationalize her coldness, the nights I gaslit myself into thinking I was imagining things, the way I let her write me out of my own life and thanked her for doing it. There was no apology she could give that would undo what she did. And more importantly, there was nothing I needed from her anymore. I blocked her number, deleted every message. logged out of our shared Spotify account, and closed our wedding website. I left my apartment keys on the nightstand in a sealed envelope with one sentence written on it: "Return to sender." She tried to make me feel invisible. But now I'd become something else entirely, untouchable. Let her explain that night however she wants. Let her lie. Let her spin. There was no longer a version of me left for her to twist. I disappeared, fully, changed my number the next morning, wiped my social media, set all accounts to private, then deleted them altogether, even the ones I barely used. I called work, used some saved PTO, and told them I had a family emergency. They didn't ask questions, just said, "Take what you need." So I packed a duffel bag with the bare minimum clothes, headphones, my old journal, and the book I never finished reading, and drove 2 hours east to a quiet Airbnb cabin near the coast. It rained the first 3 days. I barely left the bed. I just laid there listening to the drops tapping on the metal roof, trying to make peace with the silence I used to be afraid of. I didn't check the news, didn't talk to friends, didn't even think about the wedding date that had passed like a ghost. There was a kind of peace in the stillness, a sad, aching peace, but peace nonetheless. I hiked once, walked a forest trail until I couldn't hear cars or voices or anything but the crunch of leaves under my boots. I stood by a lake that mirrored the gray sky and thought, this is what starting over feels like. Not fireworks, not some big triumphant moment, just quiet. The only message I replied to came from Amelia Maloney's sister. She wrote, "I'm sorry, you didn't deserve that. I tried to warn you." I stared at the screen for a long time before I typed, "Thanks." I know, that was it. No explanation. No anger, just two people who had watched a house burn and knew better than to walk back into the smoke by the time I got back home, if you could even call it that. The world had moved on, but not quietly. Melanie's name was still echoing in our mutual circles. Some people texted me cautiously, like I was made of glass. "I heard what happened. That was brutal, man. Are you okay?" I didn't respond to most. The ones who mattered already knew I'd left for a reason. The rest just wanted gossip. One of the groomsmen, David, reached out and confessed something that made my stomach knot all over again. He said, "I saw her at a bar 3 months ago, with some guy. Looked too close to be casual." I asked, "Why didn't you say anything?" He answered honestly, "I didn't want to be the reason everything fell apart." There it was. That perfect line. They didn't want to be the reason. Like silence wasn't a choice. Melanie, meanwhile, was crumbling. I didn't have to be there to know it. Amelia sent me screenshots of cryptic Instagram stories. Phrases like, "People will ruin your life and act like they're the victim," and "Grief doesn't give you the right to be cruel." I almost laughed. Almost thought her father apparently cut her off. Her mother was deeply embarrassed and pulled out of church events. Rachel, the one who cheered the loudest at our engagement, blocked me on everything, which only confirmed her guilt. And yet, through all the chaos, I felt nothing. No desire for revenge. No satisfaction in her downfall. Just a kind of absence, like I had finally stepped out of the house of mirrors she built, and I could see my own face again. I just handed her the shovel. 6 months later, I stood on the balcony of my new apartment in a new city, watching the sun rise over unfamiliar buildings. I was still figuring things out. New job, new neighborhood, new routine. But I felt lighter, like I'd shed someone else's skin. The wedding suit still hangs in the back of my closet. I haven't touched it. I thought about throwing it out, burning it, donating it, but I didn't. I keep it like a scar. A reminder of how blind love can make you on, how sharp clarity feels when it finally arrives. Sometimes, when I'm walking to the train or grabbing coffee, I wonder what story she tells now. What version she gives to new people. Does she cry? Does she lie? Does she ever admit what she did? But I never linger there, because none of it matters anymore. I went to therapy. I started running again. I picked up writing, the kind of raw journaling I used to do in college when everything felt too big to say out loud, and for the first time in years, I started building a life that was only mine. No edits, no eggshells, no scripts I had to follow. One day, I got an email from her. The subject line just said, "Please." I didn't open it. I didn't even mark it as read. I archived it and moved on. And if you're wondering why I didn't rage or scream or burn everything to the ground, here's your answer. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction, it's disappearance. It's leaving so quietly, so completely, that they start to wonder if you were ever real at all. And somewhere out there, Melanie still doesn't know where I went. She never will.